The Chargers still need a GM. After signing Jim Harbaugh, which was the most important signing in this offseason, the Chargers still have an opening in their general manager position, and it's basically down to only two candidates. And also, make sure to go and check out the Chargers channel and watch their latest video of Chargers fans reacting to Jim Harbaugh because they featured me in there, and that was so cool to see, man. The Chargers content team is the best in the NFL, and I was just in a Chargers video, and the Chargers just hired Jim Harbaugh this year, bro. This is the best start to 2024. So make sure to like and subscribe if you do enjoy this content, man. It helps me out so much. And let's bolt up and talk about these two candidates, starting off with Joe Hortiz. So Joe Hortiz is the Ravens director of player personnel. He joined the Ravens as a personnel assistant in 1998 and became a college scout in 2001. He spent 8 years as a scout until 2009, when he was promoted to director of college scouting. And since he became the director of college scouting, they've drafted 16 Pro Bowlers, and they draft well consistently with a lot of picks thanks to how many compensatory picks they're able to secure. And since 2009, they've averaged averaged more than 8.5 picks in the draft. And if you go through and look at all of these picks, they tend to hit more often than miss. And a lot of these guys are either really nice depth pieces or some really great players in the NFL. And the fact that the Ravens have so many picks every single year, yet they consistently hit on the majority of them, that's extremely impressive. And since 2009, when Joe Hortiz took over as director of college scouting, the Ravens drafts have gotten better. The Ravens are one of those few teams that tend to take the players that I like in the draft. And we all know about how the Chargers took Isaiah Spiller in the 4th round over Isaiah Likely and Quentin Johnston over Zay Flowers. I mean, that's just two examples, but just trading those two picks between these teams, that would make a huge difference for this offense, and those picks add up a lot over time. He also graduated from the Ravens 2020 club, which is basically someone who started at 20 years old on a $20K salary and rose up in the rankings to be a major part of their organization. It's a very high esteemed program. He is Eric DeCosta's right-hand man, and he got interviews last year from the Bears and the Giants, but this year he's only interviewed with us, and he just finished his second interview. I think that was announced this morning or maybe late last night. And I would love Joe Hortiz as general manager because of how much consistent success the Ravens have had in free agency and drafting, especially considering how great they are at managing the cap and securing compensatory picks. I mean, they're probably the best managed teams, like front office wise, in the entire NFL, all things considered. And before Eric DeCosta was the GM in Baltimore, it was Ozzie Newsome, and Eric DeCosta was basically Ozzie Newsome's right-hand man, and now Joe Hortiz is Eric DeCosta's right-hand man. So Joe Hortiz may be the next man up for GM, and he obviously has that Harbaugh connection, being from the Ravens with John Harbaugh. But Joe Hortiz was one of my top 3 guys before this process even began. But let me tell you why I right now am not completely sold on him. I mean, everything that I said about him, I still stand by. I love this guy. I think he would be a great general manager. But because of this second candidate, I'm a little unsure about Joe Hortiz now, and I kind of want the other guy. The second candidate is Brandon Brown. He is actually the assistant general manager for the New York Giants. And listen, hey, bro, I know what you're thinking. The Giants? Now, immediately, I know just the fact that he is with the Giants is going to scare a lot of people off, and you're not going to even consider him. But just listen to his background for a little bit, and I promise you, he is going to win you over because he won me over, because I was thinking the same thing you're thinking right now. So this guy was an All-American high school player in New York, a 4-year letterman as a defensive back in college, and he has a bachelor's degree in business administration and a law degree. So this guy is very smart, and he played football at a high level. He was a scout with the Colts before joining the Eagles in 2017 as the assistant director of pro scouting, and he worked his way up to become the director of player personnel in 2021. So he was very quickly rising the ranks, and then he joined the Giants in 2022 as assistant general manager. And his first year with the Giants, they underwent a huge roster reconstruction and made the playoffs with Daniel Jones as quarterback. And that Giants roster, they were playing a lot of undrafted rookies, and a lot of the guys that they drafted playing a lot of young players that he was a part of bringing on that team, and they made the playoffs with such young players. He's only 35 years old, and he has risen his way through the league with 3 different teams now. And the fact that he is so young and is in that position that he is in, I mean, it's just interesting to me. So I wanted to hear him talk, and I wanted to find out why he is so successful and just listen to him.
When you look at it, Dan, it's going to be acquire, develop, retain. That's what we want to do. It's, acquiring the best talent, developing the best talent, retaining the best talent. So we're always going to look for upgrades.
Acquire talent, develop them, and then retain them after their rookie contracts. I mean, that sounds like the perfect pairing at GM for Jim Harbaugh. Someone that can help identify players for him, allows them to be developed by the coaching staff and helps them out in that process, then prioritizes keeping those valuable players. Nothing that Joe Hortiz can't do, I get it, but it gets better.
Adding more guys that are smart, tough, dependable. And like I said in June, it doesn't guarantee them success, but it gives them an opportunity and a platform for success. So I think when you look at the draft class, we added explosiveness. We talked about making a conscious effort at adding generators on the offensive side, getting more explosive on the defensive side, guys that fit our brand.
Guys that are smart, tough, and dependable. When he's saying dependable, he's talking about injuries, not drafting guys that are not going to be able to get on the field, like Joey Bosa wasn't this year, like Mike Williams as well. I mean, these 3 traits, smart, tough, dependable, that sounds like a Jim Harbaugh team, doesn't it? And he also says explosive, generators on offense. I mean, how long have we asked for explosiveness? And the term he uses here is generators on offense, but he's basically just saying someone who is a playmaker, someone that can force like missed tackles and run down the sideline for extra yardage outside of a play design. He also emphasized getting guys that are explosive on defense and drafting guys that fit the brand of football that you are playing. I mean, Jim Harbaugh definitely has a brand of football, and if you're not bought in yet, this gets even better.
When you look from the top down, from Joe and Dave's preaching collaboration, when there's synergy between the scouting department and the coaching staff, it allows us, like I kind of label it, finding players within the margin, right? They're guys that may be imperfect later on as you go in terms of on day 3, but we're asking them to do things that fit the system, and that accentuates their positive traits. So I'm excited. Obviously there's been early success, but the book isn't written yet, but it's a good start right now.
Synergy from the top down and drafting guys that are imperfect later on in the draft, but can be asked to do specific things that Jim Harbaugh wants and that the players can do. Bro, this guy just gets it, man. And I can't speak for Joe Hortiz because, to be fair, he wasn't asked these kind of questions in a public setting like this. But Brandon Brown, he is saying everything correctly and then some.
Getting the description from Wink. Wink is very particular of what plays in the system and what's at a premium. And we know, hey, you got to be able to run, got to be strong, got to, guys that have length, and you got to be willing to be physical in the run game, also in press coverage. So I think more guys that fit our profile, and then they have the mental toughness, play with short-term memory. They're getting coached the same way. It doesn't matter how we acquire them. Once they're here, it's an even playing field. So Dave says again, you earn your playing time based on merit, and Trey's nothing more of an example of that.
Drafting guys that your coaches want in their systems. He knows what Wink Martindale, that was their defensive coordinator, wants in a quarterback, which is length and speed and physicality, but then they need to have the mental toughness to take what the coaches give them and succeed in their system. Not only is he trying to set up the coaches for success by drafting guys that will fit in their system that he knows will succeed with that specific skill set, but he's setting up the players that he is drafting later on in the rounds and early rounds as well. But specifically, we're talking later rounds here because these are guys that have a specific skill set and they're not perfect players. He is setting those players up for success by drafting them. Brandon Brown, when you just listen to him talk, and the fact that he's so young, he's gotten to such a high level in the NFL. I mean, this guy has that it factor, man. And I know Brandon Staley, a lot of you guys are probably going to be nervous because he was young. He had that, fast track to the top of the league, kind of like Brandon Brown is right now. Brandon Staley, to me, he didn't really ever have that it factor. When I listen to Brandon Brown and I see him talk, he has that it factor. I don't know what it is. I can tell he's so passionate about football, and it's just about all that he cares about. That is a football dude. Brandon Brown is a football man. Jim Harbaugh is a football man. I mean, both of these guys working together, I can see it happening, and I really think, talking about that top-down synergy, Jim Harbaugh would work very, very well with Brandon Brown, and that's why right now, even though I love Joe Hortiz, he was one of my top 3 guys. I don't know if you guys remember that. I kind of prefer Brandon Brown just after listening to him talk, man. I mean, he won me over. Let me know who you guys would rather have as GM, and if you didn't see my video yesterday, then you can check this one out right here about Jim Harbaugh, of course.